The wind howled, a low, mournful sound echoing through the empty streets and rustling the leaves of the ancient trees. It was as if the very earth was crying out in anticipation of the storm to come. Rachel watched from the window, her reflection a ghost in the glass. Her eyes were wide with worry, scanning the horizon for any sign of relief. The storm was not just outside, it was within her too. The sky, once a cheerful blue, was now a bruised purple, heavy with unshed rain. Dark clouds gathered ominously, swirling and merging into a formidable force. It was a sky that promised turmoil and unrest. She felt a familiar tightness in her chest, a premonition of chaos. Her breath came in shallow gasps, each one a struggle against the mounting pressure. Anxiety gnawed at her, relentless and unyielding. She turned away, her gaze sweeping over the cluttered living room. The mess was a stark contrast to the order she craved. It was a reflection of her mind, scattered and disorganized. Toys lay scattered like colorful landmines, each one a reminder of the chaos that had become her daily life. They were symbols of innocence, now tainted by the storm brewing both outside and within. A half-finished puzzle sat on the table, a testament to a fleeting moment of peace. It was a project abandoned, much like her own sense of calm. The pieces lay there, waiting to be put together, just like her fragmented thoughts. This was her life now, a constant whirlwind of needs and demands. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her, making every step feel like a monumental effort. Her hand instinctively went to her pocket, fingers closing around the cool metal of her phone. It was a small comfort, a connection to a world beyond her immediate chaos. Just a small escape, her mind whispered, a brief respite from the storm that raged both outside and within. She longed for a moment of peace, a chance to breathe without the weight of the world on her shoulders. A few hours to herself, away from the noise and the mess. It was a dream she clung to, a beacon of hope in the midst of the storm. She needed that time, that space to find herself again. The thought was a lifeline pulling her towards the door. She reached for the handle, her heart pounding with the promise of a brief escape. It was a small step, but it was a step towards reclaiming her peace. The first raindrops hit the window pane as she reached for her coat. Large, heavy drops that splattered against the glass like angry accusations. Guilt stabbed at her, sharp and insistent. She couldn't leave, not in this weather. A crash from upstairs, followed by a wail of despair, solidified her decision. "Mommy!" Her son's voice, thick with tears, was a powerful anchor, rooting her to the spot. The phone felt heavy in her hand, a symbol of her own selfish desires. Sighing, Rachel shoved the phone back into her pocket. The storm raged outside, mimicking the turmoil within her. She was trapped, not by the weather, but by her own sense of duty, a prisoner in her own home. Memories, vivid and unwelcome, flickered through her mind. They came unbidden, like ghosts from a past life, haunting her in the quiet moments. Images of her life before children, a time when her days were filled with endless possibilities, and her nights with laughter and joy. Carefree days spent with friends, their laughter echoing through bustling cafes and sun-drenched parks. Those were the days when her spirit felt light, unburdened by the weight of responsibilities. Back then, her biggest worry was what dress to wear on a Saturday night. The excitement of choosing an outfit, the thrill of the night ahead, it all seemed so trivial now, yet so precious. Now, her days were filled with diaper changes and bedtime stories. The routine of motherhood had taken over, leaving little room for the spontaneity she once cherished. Her social life had dwindled to hurried conversations with other mothers at the playground. These brief exchanges were a far cry from the deep, meaningful connection she once had. She loved her children, fiercely and unconditionally, but she couldn't shake the feeling that a part of her, a vital, vibrant part, was slowly fading away. The woman she used to be seemed like a distant memory. The wind howled outside, a constant, keening reminder of the life she once had. It was as if nature itself was mourning the loss of her former self, a life of freedom and spontaneity, adventures that took her to new places, experiences that enriched her soul, a life she increasingly felt was slipping away, drop by precious drop, like the rain that lashed against the windows, each raindrop a reminder of the moments she could never get back, the laughter that had turned into echoes of the past. Section 4. The weight of the water. Hours crawled by. The storm intensified, each clap of thunder a hammer blow against her skull. The power flickered, plunging the house into an unsettling darkness. Her children, their faces pale with fear, clung to her, their small bodies trembling. "It's okay," she murmured, her voice a soothing balm against the raging storm. But even as she reassured them, a part of her felt a strange sense of kinship with the tempest outside. Like the storm, she too felt on the verge of breaking. The weight of their dependence pressed down on her, heavy and suffocating. Was this her life now? Doomed to weather one storm after another with no respite, no escape? The thought sent a fresh wave of despair crashing over her. Section 5. Yearning for silence. Later, as the storm began to subside, a fragile silence descended upon the house. The children, exhausted from their fear, had finally fallen asleep. Rachel sat beside their beds, watching their chests rise and fall with each peaceful breath. She yearned for the same peace. For a moment, just a moment, of quiet solitude, to be free from the constant demands, the endless cycle of need and responsibility. The phone in her pocket felt heavy again, a tangible reminder of the escape she craved. Her thumb hovered over the screen, ready to dial. One call, that's all it would take. She could still salvage a few hours of peace, escape the confines of her life, if only for a little while. The temptation was almost unbearable. Section 6. The promise in her touch. As she reached for the phone, her son stirred in his sleep. The room was dimly lit, the soft glow of the nightlight casting gentle shadows on the walls. She hesitated for a moment, her fingers hovering over the device, torn between the world outside and the one within these four walls. His small hand, seeking comfort, found hers. The touch was light, almost ethereal, yet it grounded her in a way nothing else could. It was a reminder of the bond they shared, a connection that transcended words. His fingers, tiny and trusting, curled around hers with surprising strength. It was as if he was silently telling her that he needed her, that her presence was his anchor in the vast sea of dreams. A warmth spread through her, chasing away the chill of her own desires. She felt a sense of purpose, a clarity that had been missing for so long. The weight of her responsibilities seemed lighter, more bearable. Looking down at his innocent face, she saw her own reflection in his slumbering features. It was a mirror of her hopes and dreams, a testament to the life she had chosen. Every line, every curve of his face was a story waiting to be told. Her heart ached with a love so fierce it brought tears to her eyes. It was a love that defied logic, a love that was both a blessing and a burden. She knew that this love would be her guiding light, her compass in the darkest of times. This was her life now, messy and chaotic and infinitely more fulfilling than any fleeting escape. The clutter, the noise, the endless demands, they were all part of the tapestry of her existence, and she wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. The phone slipped from her grasp, forgotten. It was a symbol of the outside world, a world that seemed so distant and irrelevant in this moment. Her priorities had shifted, and she embraced the change wholeheartedly. The storm outside had passed, leaving behind a cleansed air and a sky sparkling with the promise of a new dawn. It was a new beginning, a chance to start afresh. The world outside mirrored the transformation happening within her, and in that moment Rachel knew she had weathered her own internal storm. She felt a sense of peace, a quiet strength that came from knowing she was exactly where she needed to be. The future was uncertain, but she was ready to face it with courage and grace. Section 7. Refuge. She wouldn't run from the chaos. She would embrace it. Find joy in the everyday miracles of sticky kisses and bedtime stories. Her children weren't burdens, they were gifts. And she, their mother, was their refuge, their protector, the calm in the center of their storm. As the first rays of dawn peeked through the window, painting the room in a soft, golden light, Rachel leaned down and kissed her son's forehead. The storm was over, and she was home.